A program designed to get people with disabilities around town is costing taxpayers close to $500 million a year, and that amount just keeps going up.
And as Fox 5's John Deutzman investigates, lots of the drivers and vehicles are doing everything but transporting the disabled.
We spotted this empty Access-a-Ride van near Union Square in Manhattan. The driver took us on a convoluted journey. He heads south on the FDR, stops here in Lower Manhattan, and apparently gets blown off by a passenger.
FDR northbound.
Then it's up the FDR, takes the Midtown Tunnel to Queens, passes two other empty Access-a-Rides on the side of the road, pulls over here at a bodega, hops in the back. At this point, the van has been empty for an hour and 10 minutes.
Still no passengers.
He pulls over here, hangs out in the back of the van with the engine running. He takes off again, still empty. Finally makes his first pickup here after being empty for more than an hour and a half. It's typical of what we found. Empty vans with no passengers, crisscrossing boroughs, lots and lots of downtime, sleeping drivers with engines running, and you pay for it all.
It just seems too big, right?
It's a mess.
A mess, this expert says, and no matter how hard the transit system tries to get it right, the federally mandated program is a scheduling nightmare, and the number of people using it is skyrocketing, with thousands more a year becoming eligible because their disability prevents them from taking the subway or bus.
There are more than 20,000 people that use this service each week. That's more than 40,000 pickups. And the people have to be picked up by the rules within 30 minutes of their scheduled time. And all of this has to be scheduled in the middle of New York City traffic.
New York City Transit, part of the MTA, is in charge of scheduling the pickups, but several private companies are contracted to provide the transportation and drivers. The drivers can have lots of downtime depending on the schedule they get.
You get breaks, you get a lot of breaks.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay. How long are breaks?
Breaks be like sometimes they 20 minutes, sometimes they're an hour, 2 hours. Sometimes you get 3-4 hours.
Really?
All depends on the gap in your route.
Ah, okay.
You might remember this guy from a story we did in November. We caught him snoozing for an hour with the engine running outside a dialysis center as people waited for their scheduled Access-a-Ride. This man's wife was grumbling.
I'm waiting every time, 1 hour, 45 minutes, every problem.
Where going? Channel 5, you look like you're sleeping on the job here.
No, I'm not.
Been sleeping for more than an hour.
I'm waiting for my passenger.
Huh?
I'm waiting for my passenger.
He eventually left with no passenger, empty for an hour and a half. Latest figures have the Access-a-Ride program costing the public more than $451 million a year. Each trip is $66, way more expensive than most limo services. People who qualify only pay $2.25 per trip, the normal subway and bus fare, for door-to-door service by appointment. The vans are designed to hold up to 2 wheelchairs and 5 people, but usually they only have 1 person at a time and put in lots of miles with no one inside.
So it seems like a lot of times they're empty, a lot of them, you know?
Yeah, we don't go full. Like I keep Staten Island empty, pick up 1 person and go back to Staten Island.
And the companies supplying the rides rake in $346 million a year for the hours the vehicles are on the road. Even for this, another driver sleeping with the engine running, and he's parked in a bike lane, a no-stopping zone. Then it's off to Roosevelt Island. He takes a nice circle tour, 1 lap, and then here we go, 2 laps by the East River. He makes a pickup after an hour and 10 minutes of empty time. After an hour with no passengers, this driver hops in the van and heads from Manhattan to Queens. He gets to Queens and makes his first pickup after being empty for an hour and 20 minutes. He takes his passengers back to Manhattan, drops them off at a medical center, then heads up to the Bronx, empty again. He gets lost in the Bronx and has to ask for directions. Then he makes his second pickup after being on the road for 3 hours, most of the time empty. This driver parks at a bus stop in the Upper East Side, hangs out for a while, then finally makes a pickup after being empty for an hour and 20 minutes.
I think Access-a-Ride is run by people who are committed and dedicated to providing transportation to people with disabilities, but have an almost impossible job.
Jim Wiseman is an attorney for the United Spinal Association. He's been fighting for the rights of the disabled for more than 30 years, and he says there are more efficient ways to get people around than Access-a-Ride.
It's a mess, and it'll stay a mess and get worse as people who used to die younger live longer and need transportation services.
The solution, he says, making all subways and cabs accessible, along with encouraging the disabled to use mass transit. Transit officials told us most of the downtime we saw was due to scheduled meal breaks,
Patient didn't show up?
passengers not showing up, and vans strategically waiting in position to pick up passengers on time.
Now, transit officials insist they are trying to make this system more efficient. In fact, they're spending millions of dollars on a brand new computerized system that will help them schedule and dispatch the Access-a-Ride vehicles. I'm John Deutzman, Fox 5 News.
And you can comment on John Deutzman's story on his blog. Just go to our website, myfoxny.com, and click on the investigations link.